We have the linear solenoid all cleaned up, have it on the bench, cover that because I didn't want any dust or debris getting in there. I hate it. I loathe the way that Honda does their grounding straps right here. That really bugs me. Why does it bug me? Because it's not covered. It's just like a naked wire out there getting exposed to the elements, and you can see some green. Basically, when copper rusts, it turns green. So I hate that. I'm actually going to take that off. I'm going to put electrical tape on that, clean up these connectors, both sides, and probably add another grounding strap that goes all the way from here to the battery, where the battery tray gets connected. Right here, we're going to do the transmission filter. That's a 17mm bolt. There's a washer on this side, and there's a washer on the back side. I'll put a part number up to it right now, but you need 2 of those. And there's a plate inside there. So you have one 10mm bolt right there, one there, and one right. I don't think you can see it. One right there. Okay. Then I'm going to get free and clear. So right here on top, right here on the very top of the transmission is where you actually fill the transmission up with ATF. On most vehicles, on most J-Series Honda V6s, it does not have this system set up. The reason it is set up this way is because actually this flows back into the transmission. This goes from the transmission filter, which is right here, goes into this line, then comes back up and gets dumped right back into the transmission. So this is the quickest and easiest way to fill up the transmission because I want to drain all the old fluid out as much as I can. This won't get the transmission fluid out of the torque converter, but it will get most of it out. If you want to do a really thorough job of this, you just drain it 3 times. Drain it once, run it 50 miles, drain it again, run another 50, drain it again, and then fill it up. But yeah, there's going to be an O-ring in here that we're going to replace. There's a 10mm bolt that we need to take off. This should allow us to pop this off, get this out of the way. This is just a rubber line that goes to the hard line that goes back into the transmission filter housing. You'll see that when you get in there. Just know that you're going to lose some transmission fluid when you do this, so just make sure you have something to catch it, because when ATF spills on the concrete, it turns it basically into an ice skating rink. You'll slip and slide and in the previous video, you could see we got the feed tube back out of the fill plug. Pretty easy. There's a little O-ring on the fill tube that dumps back into the transmission. So I'm going to change that out. Pick that one up from Honda, but I'll put a part number up to it. So now we're going to drain the transmission, and you have a plug right here. What you use is just a 3/8 part of your ratchet to get it loose. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, got it loose. Just give it a good yank. Get a pan to catch it into. I'm gonna let this drain for like 24 hours, if not longer. That's what I do with all my oil changes as well. I let it drain for as long as I can. One time I drained one for a week. That is black and nasty. Quite a bit of quite a bit of material left on the magnet of the drain plug. You can see that. So I don't think this transmission has ever been serviced. So good thing we're doing it now. Gonna put fresh ATF into this thing, change out the transmission filter. This transmission is gonna breathe a sigh of relief when I'm done with it, when we're done with it. So while we're draining the ATF down at the bottom, we're gonna change out the O-ring on this return line that goes in the top. And one thing, you can actually refill the transmission from the dipstick. It's a pain in the butt. That's why I like to do it from here, because you have that nice open shot down into the transmission with this hole right there. So that's what I like to do. But I want to get this O-ring replaced while we're here. So very simple. It's right there where my thumb's at. So I'll just get a little pick tool and pull that off and then get the new one. I have the new one here in hand. Picked this up from the Honda dealership. 91301 P7W-003 is the O-ring that you need. And if it's available on Amazon, I'll put a link down in the description below. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm just going to take this O-ring out right there at the very top. I have a pick tool that I'm going to use to get the old one off, and then just slide the new one back on. If you need to slide it on, if it's kind of hard to get up from the bottom to the top, just put some ATF, put some new automatic transmission fluid onto it, and get off that way. Hopefully you guys can see this, because I'm going to have my hands down here. And it might make it kind of difficult to see exactly what I'm doing. But let's see if I can get it here. Okay, got it off. There it is. There's the old one. Just get the new one, slide it up from the bottom, put it into place. So put some ATF onto it so it slides a little bit easier, and then that will be taken care of. Okay, got the new one in my hand, brand new. Gonna come down here, pick this up again. And if you guys have done this, if you got the old one off, you know how to get the new one on. It's not hard at all. Sorry, my hand is blocking it. Just lead it up from the bottom. Quite a bit tighter fit here because the brand new one. Okay, it's on. Just make sure it's seated correctly. It's not rolled over on itself or anything. We're good to go. Okay, now let's go to the bottom, put the drain plug back in. It's been draining for about 48 hours now. So got a new crush washer for it, and we'll close this up. Then we'll come down, we'll come here, I'll come here. We'll come here together, fill up the transmission. The transmission takes 7.6 US quarts. If you were to drain everything out of the transmission, that's the torque converter, everything, takes 7.6 US quarts. But what came out was about 4 quarts of automatic transmission fluid, so that's what I'm going to put in there. Maybe 4.25, just to be on the safe side, because this is such a pain in the butt to access. But yeah, let's get going. Okay, we're back underneath the vehicle. We're going to put the drain fill plug for the transmission back into place. Got so here's the old washer. Got a new one from Honda. Part number for this sucker is 90471 PX4-000. Picked up one of those. I'll put a link down in the description below if we can find it on Amazon. So this has been draining for about 48 hours. Always replace the washers on the transmission drain plug as well as the oil drain plug. Don't make the mistake. I made the mistake of never doing it, and then I had my threads inside the oil pan just come out one day all of a sudden. And no, I didn't over torque it. I was very careful. It just came out. Bring this into place. Cleaned up all the residue or metal particles that were stuck on the magnet here. And you don't have to be Superman when you do this. Just snug it up. Okay, there, it's tight. Now we'll go back up on top and change out the transmission filter. Okay, we're going to do the transmission filter. It's right here. 17, let me take this bolt out. I just did that. I actually ohmed out the grounding strap and I wasn't getting any resistance, so I'm going to just put that back. 17 millimeter on this big banjo bolt. Wow, that's pretty easy to break loose. Okay. There's that sucker. There's the other one that fell down. They're not magnetic, so you can't pick them up with a magnetic pickup tool. Boom, got it. There's the other one. So if you don't install these two crush washers, you're going to have a leak of transmission fluid, so just be careful. All three bolts are exactly the same length. I'll get this plate out. There's probably an O-ring in there that's sealing it. I'm going to put a rag down there to catch all the transmission fluid that's about to come out. There it is. There's one of the O-rings that needs to be replaced, and here's the other one that needs to be replaced. One here, one here. Here's the transmission filter. Don't think it's ever been changed. Woo-wee. It stinks. Here's part of it. There's a spring. More pieces of it. Just thrashed. Where's the other end of this? Is it on the... Oh, it's right here. What I was looking at, I thought it looked kind of funky, but this is the actual end of the transmission filter. There you go. Never been changed. Let me show you what the new one looks like. Picked this one up from Wix. 58139. Transmission filter. See how pretty and clean that one is? Pretty and clean. Have you here at the bench, going to go over the parts that are used in the transmission filter housing. So here's your transmission filter. Here's the plug, the old plug that came out. Here's a spring that's in the back. This is part of the old one, part of the old filter that came out. But here's your part number for your filter. Here is the O-ring that goes on the cap. Here's the cap. I cleaned this up. This O-ring is going to be replaced with this one right here. 91301 RAY-004 for those of you who cannot read. I'll put a link down in the description below where you can buy it on Amazon. And then here is the new gasket that seals up against this part of the plate, and that part number 91302-RAY-003. So let me show you how this works. Okay, so you take your new end plug, right? You stick this in here, and the new transmission filter. Okay, that goes like that. Then you have a spring, right? This spring, when you put this all back together, you're going to take your finger. I actually couldn't reach it unless I put it on my middle finger. I'm going to put this on my middle finger, and I'll show you when I get there. But I'll put this inside the housing, and there's like 3 little rings or 3 little ridges that the spring will actually hold on to. So I'll put that in first. Then you'll have this part goes towards the spring, right? Then you have your end cap, and your end cap gets butted up against the rubber seal, and it all sits in like this, right? This is how it sits inside the transmission filter housing. All right? So your spring, your filter, your rubber plug, your end cap. That's how you want it right there. And then you have on the banjo bolt that goes through here, you have two crush washers that are needed. Right there, you can see the 2 crush washers. The 2 crush washers are right there. The part number for that, you'll need 2 of them. Dos 94109-12000. Drain washer, 12 millimeter. I'll list all the parts that you need down in the description below, but this is what you need to do to put everything back together. So I will get the new O-ring out, put it on the end cap here, because this thing was just flat and nasty. So if you want to help get this cap back in when you're reinstalling it, you can put WD-40 on it. You can put some engine oil on it. You can put some automatic transmission fluid on it, just to help it slide into place easier. So just want to show you how it lines up. So let's put everything back together. Alright, so I just looked underneath the car, and I guess I should have put something down to catch all this stuff, but that is the automatic transmission fluid that came out when I popped open the transmission filter housing. So just a word of caution, make sure you put something down there to catch that. Okay, let's put the spring back in first. Got the spring. Okay, it's sitting in place back there. Bring in the filter. Okay, bring in the cap. Make sure you line it up correctly. These two go on top, this one goes down the bottom. This line was facing towards the bottom. Also, you have this reference line here on the top where my thumb's at, which lines up with this right here. So we'll bring that into place. Okay, just wiggling it back and forth. Bringing my two top bolts here. You have to put some pressure on the end cap because the spring is pushing back towards you. Start all three by hand before you tighten any of them down. Doing the bottom one now, which is the most difficult. Kind of got to do it blind and with the fingertips. Alright, got the cap on for the oil filter housing. How I did it, I just started the screws, pushed this in as far as I could. I had a small gap right here. I just tightened up the three 10mm bolts until it closed up and everything's good. Now I'm going to put the banjo bolt back in. Make sure you use your two brand new crush washers from a banjo bolt here. Take the old ones off. There's one. The second one is stuck on there really good. I need to get a pair of pliers to get this thing off. Okay, let me get this crush washer off and I'll come back. Okay, so got the banjo bolt in there, got the new crush washer in, put it through the black line. Now I got to put the other crush washer on this side towards the cap. And then once you do that, you're going to have to move the black line around a little bit to get the right angle of the dangle to be able to get that banjo bolt to go in there. So only started by hand. You'll know when the threads grab. Do not cross thread this thing. I can only imagine what kind of a hassle it would be to find. I guess Honda probably sells that cap still, but just don't cross thread it. Okay, now I'm getting the other washer, the one towards the cap. Okay, got that started. Okay, now I need to bring the line towards me a little bit and get it started that way. So let's see how. Okay, cool. Make sure you have both washers on. I do. The one towards the cap, the one towards the bolt, the head bolt, the bolt of the head of the bolt. Bring back in my 17mm and snug this puppy down. You do not have to be Superman when you do this. Just snug it. Okay, it's tight. Okay, all right, there we go. Transmission filters back in place, the housing back in place, brand new. Next thing I'll do, got all that taken care of, fill up the transmission through the hole right here, then bring in the grounding strap for this, clean it up a little bit on the frame of the car, I'll put 4.25 quarts of Valvoline full synthetic ATF back into the transmission. This is how I'm going to fill up the transmission. I have two skinny funnels that I'm using going down into the hole right there, top of the transmission. I had to take the plug out that the line goes into because it wasn't giving me enough room to get this green funnel in there. So I popped this out. This one has a washer as well, so if you decide to pop this out, just be careful. Do not lose that washer. It took a 24 millimeter socket to get it out. This big mother sucker right here. Pretty easy to break off. Some of them, the ones that don't have this transmission filter and are not set up like this, it's a 19, I believe it's a 19 millimeter, but those things can be on there super tight. Sometimes you have to get a 1/2 inch breaker bar to break them loose to fill up your transmission. So I just want to show you how I'm going to do this, and then I'll put the automatic transmission fluid in. Okay, that's how we do that. So I put 4 quarts in. Just use this painter's tub. I got it from Home Depot. So I just went to the 2 quarts twice. We're good to go. Just let that drain for a little bit and then we'll close everything up. Put the solenoid back on. That's my dog Coco, the best shop dog I've ever had. She is so cool. But I want to let you guys know that this did work. This did clear the code. It is a pretty extensive, I don't want to say repair, hack maybe. But yeah, this did clear the code. If you don't want to go through this whole thing, I guess you could just drain the transmission fluid, get those 4 quarts out, and then fill it back up with some Valvoline full synthetic ATF and 4 quarts of it, and see if it helps your problem. But if you still get a check engine light after doing that, you might have to go through all these steps and clean that linear solenoid out, just to make sure that's functioning correctly. But there you go, guys. If you can, please subscribe, and I will talk to you later.